one of the things I observe, lack of interest in scorekeeping in US and a lack of interest in umpiring amongst young people for both of those things. And so for the fact that you as a young person, and again, I use the example of Leslie Reifer Jr. and Claire Polosak, they've shot up so quickly because there's oftentimes issues with umpires who hang around too long. Whereas the young umpires, and Simon Toffel was a great example when he was still on the circuit, the younger umpires who get involved, they're winning all these awards constantly because there's a certain level of fitness and a certain level of conditioning.
Certainly.
People might not believe that, but it's true. You're standing out in the field for the batting team is only batting for 3 hours, and then they come out in the field for 3 hours. The umpire is the only one who's actually on the field for the entire 7 hours, no matter what, if it's a one-day match.
2 games a day, yeah, if it's T20s or
T20s, whatever. So there's a certain level of fitness required to umpiring and being able to not just be physically fit, but mentally fit and focused and training your mind and all that. In my opinion, it should skew more towards suiting a younger person to be able to maintain that. And so the fact that you've done that, how much do you feel that has contributed to your ability to accelerate through the pathway quickly to where you're starting to get, like you said, league finals and getting certifications and getting invited to go beyond New York City and get invited to some of these T20 private tournaments that have been held around America?
I think it's a huge advantage, and it's part of the opportunity that I saw in this sport. I started playing this sport, like I said, in 2013. I was already in my mid-20s. I'd already, been not failed, but I'd been a failed lacrosse player, and I played, Australian football semi-professionally, played in a couple national championship games and lost both of them, played in 7 or 8 national championship games in Gaelic football as well and lost all those as well. There's never any pay in that game, though. It's amateur on purpose from top to bottom, but that's a different cast, a different story. But absolutely, I realized early that even in my mid-20s, having to make a bit of money from cricket in order to play, needing to learn how to score and how to umpire just to be able to understand the game in the way that I wanted to understand the game, I knew that I was getting hooked quickly. And I knew that I wanted cricket to be some part of my life. And I've spoken with other journalists, and I've tried to write a lot for myself, but I get really freaked out by the perceived audience of that. Even though I'd feel like I'd be a great podcast host, but I don't need to be another guy with a podcast. There's too many, again, white guys with podcasts, like too many basic bitches, you and me out there doing podcasts. So thanks so much for inviting me on your podcast. But I've explored the journalism side of it and have gotten frustrated even quicker with it. I knew I wasn't going to end up being a paid player anywhere, and that wasn't going to be my side. I don't know enough about the game to sort of be a coach. I've been a soccer coach, a basketball coach. I wasn't a very good basketball coach, but I've been a Gaelic football and an Aussie football coach. So, but I don't have the technical skill for that. So let me try this technical skill. I think it's huge. I think most of the time when I'm out on the field, especially in the club level, I'm 30 years younger than the people that I'm working with most often when I'm working here in the city. And that's not to knock those men and women who do that job. They're looking for something different. Maybe they have kids who play. Maybe they've come from a different side of it. They had a whole life of working and raising kids and maybe even moving to this country and stuff like that. And then 20 years later, they pick up umpiring again because they're in their 50s and they don't want to, they're not going to try and play. I made that decision at 26 to sort of become an official rather than to go down a playing or coaching route. And I'm sure that has some of its an advantage. The stamina is certainly a big part of it. There's times where we will do 2 and 3 games in a day. Last year at the nation's capital T20 tournament, the Unity Cup in DC, there was some rain days. And so we did 3 games. We did 3 T20 games in a row where I was on a field doing an inspection of the wet grass at 7:30 a.m. And at 10:30 p.m. when I stepped off the field for the last time that day, I couldn't do anything but sit down and just be driven back to my hotel. And I think that is kind of a young man's game to be able to do that. Not to gender that, a young person's game to be able to do that kind of thing. That isn't to say that there aren't fit people who are much older than me, and there are incredibly technically skilled umpires who are much older than me, and I've really enjoyed learning from them. But you're right. I would love to see a whole generation of players look at themselves at 23 and say, is this for me? is this really what I want to do? Or do I sort of more love watching the IPL and then digging into Jared Kimber's, podcasts and statistics for 5 hours a week? And I had a question about the way that the DRS worked in that IPL match versus the way that I saw something happen in a Blast game last week over in England. I wonder how they're different or why. And if anybody has that question to themselves while they're going through their cricket journey, call me, because I will set you up with the free MCC first learning experience of the laws, which is great. And so I think it would be huge if we had a lot more umpires coming through at a lot younger of an age. I have a bit of a story about this. When I was 14 years old and I got my very first soccer refereeing license, I was so excited to be out there refereeing soccer games. And it was encouraged. There were flyers put up around the league, at different fields that said, "Are you interested in becoming in becoming a referee? Call US Soccer at this number and we'll set you up with whatever contacts." I did that at 14 years old because already I was like, well, I need to make a bit of money on the weekend. I'd already been working as a lifeguard and a swim coach over the summer. I might as well make some money while I'm also playing a bit of soccer still. I'm not going to be a first team starter, even at my high school. I know I'm not the best goalkeeper at my high school. Do something else. So I did that. And by my second year of refereeing soccer, I had started a soccer referee training program at my youth club. So I had gone off on my own and gone into gotten driven into Philadelphia by my father, a neighborhood he didn't want to go to drop me off to go to 4 hours of soccer referee training. Who the hell is going to sit around and do 4 hours of soccer referee training? Thank you to my dad for driving me there, right? But I then thought it would really behoove our club, a club that he was on the board of and that my grandfather had started, that every single one of our 12-year-old soccer players who are playing travel soccer should be able to referee the 8-year-old soccer game, right? And they should be able to referee the 6-year-old soccer game. And I think if somebody in cricket had the power, had the money, had the time, I have the time, I don't have the power or the money, but if somebody wanted to go to, there are 40 teams, 35 teams in PSAL cricket, something like that, right? In 5 different divisions, 6 or 7 teams in each division. And there's a lot of those kids who will not go on to even play senior men's cricket at a club level, but some of them love to talk about the game. I've ridden the train with them back from Jackson Heights into the city, I have ridden the train with them and they have talked my ear off about how they've changed the rules in the IPL every year. And why do they do that? And why are they trying to make the game more interesting? Can't it just be this way? How come you can't have 2 players behind square on the onside? Son, let me tell you a 45-minute story about Bodyline, because I've watched the entire TV series about it, right? Like, send me these kids, right? Every 14-year-old kid who joins a freshman cricket team in New York City, should get 2 hours of umpire training, should get 2 hours of understanding what are the laws of the game. And as you said, how do you score the game? How do you keep track of the game? How do you talk about the game the way that people who talk about the game professionally talk about it? And I think that if some program like that existed, that, and somebody was willing to put up the money to make that happen, then I think that would be incredible.